Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to Looking Ahead, the series where I break down the meta, what's happening over Japan, and how will it impact our one. Today, we're talking one of my favourite topics. It's creativity being rewarded in the Paris Dragona format. I love looking at this sort of the snapshot of the format in Japan's format, and right now, some of the players are having some amazing creative choices right now, and definitely being rewarded by winning multiple city leagues. Plus, we're also going to look at the City League metagame. How is the format really shaping up? Is Charles and Rage Bolt still the top decks right now to play? Plus, we have a ton of brand new cards which got revealed. Some really interesting reprints that have been shown. So without further ado, let's look at the brand new cards. So if we see the new cards here, we can see here that they are pretty interesting. Skull Valley EX has a really unique ability. As long as this Pokemon is in play, it is both a fire and grass type Pokemon. Been a while since we've seen a dual type Pokemon, but this is pretty powerful because obviously it hits for weakness against Charizard as it is a grass type. And it has a really cool attack for 2 fire energies, 10 damage, plus 17 more damage each damage counter on this Pokemon. Instantly I'm thinking, well, if we have Gengar, plus we have the damage pump, move 2 damage counters onto Skull Valley. All of a sudden now we're doing additional 140 damage, plus the 10 is 150. Which is pretty good. It does nearly one hit KO for likes of Charizard. You can find a way to put some more damage counters on with Charge Bug, or even likes of Magma Basement, even move around some damage and move your engines around with the likes of Armory. So it definitely has got some synergy here. Obviously, we have easy ways to get the engines out and play with Magma Basement, with Armor Rouge. We have to make sure we keep those damage counters in play. Only realistic see with likes of damage pump and moving around. But definitely it's going to hit some absolute truck, as it's got a couple of damage counters on there one. Paladin's EX is pretty interesting for its first attack. 160 damage, and the friendly Pokemon can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. Not too bad. And the other attack, put damage counters on each of your opponent's bench Pokemon until the remaining HP is 100. This is quite nice, especially with some spread decks. You can like set up loads of damage, and all of a sudden you can go 3 Dust Wards and get instantly big KOs, which is pretty powerful. But honestly, it's very costly, and you definitely want to go around this one and probably pay more of a single price style spread sort of damage with just noise instead of the likes of Pilosam. We have a reprint of Scramble Switch, and I, for one, am really happy for this one. Instantly, I thought this is a really good partner for Regidrago. If they have the likes of a Kira play or a Giratina, they're going to have hardly any energies out in play. Also, to play Scramble Switch, bring out a fresh Regidrago V-Star with all the energies you really require, and this is instantly such a better powerful play. It definitely has got some synergy, but Prime Catch is much better when you want to get that the Kieran play, but I think the Scramble Switch is really good in the late game to actually preserve your energies and constantly keep the attacks from rolling. We also have the Amulet of Hope, which I think is quite interesting. If the Pokemon's card is attached, it's knocked out by damage done from attacks of your opponent's Pokemon. You may search your deck up to 3 cards and put them into your hand. Shuffle your deck afterwards. Now, obviously, this is very important. It's an attack from your opponent's Pokemon. So, for likes of Dustmore, obviously this will not activate. But I think it's really good. A way for you to search deck for 3 cards. We obviously have the likes of the Radiant Jirachi, so you can potentially get even more cards that way. Obviously, unfortunately, this can easily be removed by the likes of Lost Vacuum, or that new, obviously, the Aspect, which removes all the tool cards around play. So definitely quite a bit of a worry sort of to play, but it definitely got a high risk, high reward sort of mentality. Now we have this Vivillon, and lots of people had a lot of hype with it because of obviously the original pre-evolutions, which makes it pretty much evolve straight into Vivillon, which has the attack Evolution Powder. For each of your bench Pokemon, search your deck for a card that evolves from that Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon in play. Now I can see it's really good in some evolution style decks. We always got to think about this one because you can instantly get this one very easily on, especially for its whole evolution line goes straight into likes of Vivillon. But you got to think about what evolution decks you really require. Could this be used in Gardevoir in the future? When we say goodbye to the good sort of curlies, but obviously we still have Team Evolution. So definitely something to really consider about going forward. Now people, a lot of talk of town is this Meowstic with this relaxing teaser. Because we haven't really seen any boss's orders since the release of it in Paladin Fates, I believe, or not Paladin Fates, in the early sort of Scarlet and Violet format, but it has a really interesting ability. You may discard the relaxing teaser from your hand if use the order ability. Once during your turn, switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with the active one, so instantly gain a boss's orders. Now, is this card any good? I don't think so, the relaxing teaser. You can only use this card if you go second and only on your first turn, so it's already such a huge limitation, then you can put energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon into their hand. Now, granted, if you play lots of these ones, you're against likes of Raging Bolt and likes of the likes of Regidrago, you can remove lots of their engines to play, which has got some synergy, but I feel theoretically you're only going to be using this one for Meowstic's ability. Now, can you really sacrifice the likes of potentially 12 spaces to utilize this? Potentially even you might go down to a 2-2 line of Meowstic plus 4 of the relaxing teasers. That could see some sort of synergy, but overall, I don't think it's that strong. With Klimot's Will, which is a healing factor for lightning Pokemon, I always find it's really good to look at some supporter cards, whether it's be good at GLC or potentially in some Horizon decks in the future. Now let's look at the Lake Spurs. All of them have some really interesting synergy. We obviously have the Uxie, which can put 2 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon. Pretty nice for spread sort of damage around. We have Mesprit, which can attach 2 basic psychic energies from your hand to your Pokemon when you like, but has a really good attack for 2 psychic energies, 160 damage, but you can only play it if you have a Uxie or Azov on your bench. Not too bad, and then Azov, which has 10 plus 10 more damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. I can see this working quite well with the likes of Dust and War, do additional more damage that way, potentially taking some easy prize cards this way. But overall, I would say these are kind of fun sort of combo decks. You could see this play in any of the some meme deck Mondays if people play this one, or could be fun at a locals. Don't think this will be very competitive, but I always love seeing these sort of cards as well. Sinnoh is a huge part of why I grew up watching Pokemon, and I really enjoy seeing these sort of new cards. Now let's look at, we've seen the new cards, let's actually see how the City League metagame is really starting to progress. Now we can see it has changed just a little bit. Like so, the numbers for Regidrago has definitely decreased a little bit from like last week's absolutely dominated by winning most of the city leagues. But like so, Raging Ball and Charizard numbers have actually dwindled just a little bit below than what they were previously. Dragapult is definitely up there as I would definitely class as a much more of a fraudulent archetype. It's doing incredibly well, but getting tons of really good placements, but it's not converting that into a win. Only got 1 win this week, compared to again over nearly 10% of all the City League top 16 results are like to Dragapult. Where exactly is it finishing? It's more of a top 4, top 8, definitely more of a top 16 archetype, not really translating into the first place sort of finishes that we're used to seeing. Iron Force is definitely here to stay. After its absolute tear of Lugia in this Champions League a few weeks ago, Iron Force is definitely going to be here to be the wreck of the metagame. Nearly 6% of all of the top 16 results are Iron Force. This is definitely a result of the likes of Lugia. If we see the likes of shutting down likes of Raging Bolt and Charizard, it's actually very, very powerful in this one. Gardevoir is out there at just under 8% by 7.8, which I think is still a very respectable number. I think Gardevoir is in a very, very good spot right now. That's a pretty decent Iron Force matchup, especially with the likes of your Klefkis and your Fluttermates trusting of their ability. They are playing the likes of Lost City, so that's definitely something to be considered about. But one of the biggest surprises, Goldingo and Shimpao is up there about 2.8%. I'm a big fan of this one. As we talked about, Goldingo did pretty well, I was saying last week, and even this week as well, getting quite multiple wins. But what makes this so exciting about to see is that they're saying that they're still up there in the ranks. Goldingo did incredibly well in Dortmund a few weeks ago, and we've got a really interesting take looking at Goldingo later on. And Shimpao, as you know, is my favourite archetype. It's doing incredibly well by just under 3%. This isn't exactly the best number what Shimpao could really ask for, but I think in this format right now where it's dominated by these big sort of EXs like Raging Bolt and likes of Charizard, it's good to see Shimpao can actually still keep its own. But how exactly has this really translated into the top 6 archetypes? We can see here that Charizard has actually gone back onto the #1 spot with 10 wins. This is incredibly impressive, and it's quite a good creativity in some of the winning lists of Charizard, which we're going to look at. We are still undecided about what is the best aspect to play in Charizard, which I think is so exciting. We've seen the likes of Cape really help in the mirror match. We've also seen the likes of the brand new I call it the Battle VIP card, where you can get a ton of basic Pokemon in your first turn of the game. We're also seeing resets, unfair stamp still play. We're still seeing Prime Catcher. I think we've seen nearly every single aspect under the sun played in a Charizard EX. Heck, I think even Legacy Energy was seen in some of the winning lists this week. In fact, Raging Ball hasn't really moved too much, still at that #6 spot, but the likes of Iron Swords has shot up 3 places by being in that 3rd spot with over 4 wins. Then the rest of the 4th and 5th, and we have still coming back at the 6th spot when Gardevoir and Lugia haven't really changed at all. I find this quite an interesting sort of approach. We're seeing the metagame, it's kind of like leveling out right now. Charizard is obviously up there as the best archetype right now, but like the Raging Ball hasn't really moved too much. We're seeing some control actually have a really good answer to this one, with the likes of the block clacks, with kind of taking in the Neuven with the counter game, which I'm really excited to talk about later on. And the likes of Iron Thorns, actually really well placed in the metagame. I think we're at a very exciting part. Paradise Dragona may not seem like the most exciting set, but it's actually opened up quite a lot of possibility. Obviously, we get the new cards released, I believe all of them at the end of this month. We have a Champions League in December time, so we're not going to see really the meta shape too much in the next foreseeable future, but we're going to be lined up to that format, so we can actually really translate it quite easily across. Now let's actually look at these creative choices where some of the players have been making in the City League. Now with Charizard 1, I think you can kind of look and go, it's kind of like exactly where you've kind of seen most things, but we've seen the Grand Tree added into this one. I like Grand Tree because it's an easy way to get out your Dust Balls on Pidgeot EX, not really sacrificing one of your rare candies. This is definitely seen as a huge sort of liability if they've seen them controlled incredibly well. Some eerie plays or TM devolutions, getting rid of some of your rare candies, it's really devastating for Charizard. So kind of having that Grand Choice or fifth sort of rare candy option, I really love. Thornton, I think, is absolute mainstay in Charizard. The amount of times you can just win certain games about this one by removing some of your liabilities like Serendipity and Rotom and instantly change them into your Charizard or even Dusknoir is incredibly powerful. I still think Briar is really, really powerful. It is the threat of Briar which makes Charizard one of the best decks right now in the format. Yes, you can utilize Briar with Dusknoir, and obviously, I talked about it in huge, in-depth sort of field where I generally think it's the best sort of combo piece there is. But overall, I think Briar is much better there as a threat. Stopping your opponent from potentially going down to those scary two prizes and unlocking Briar for you is really, really powerful. The rest of the deck isn't really too creative, but this Charizard deck here, oh boy, is it absolutely creative. What I love this one is it plays reversal energy and having that Lux Ray, so you can actually attack within the late sort of game. It has a really good Lugia tech all of a sudden. Now you can get these big one-hit KOs straight away. As soon as your opponent takes one prize card, which if it's Lugia or any other decks there, it's very easy for them to do this on. You don't have to sacrifice your Charizard to the late game and chuck loads of single prizes is really, really nice. Team Evolution makes sure you can go around the likes of the rare candy. So we're seeing that in having that Pidgeot, that Dusclops, that Charmeleon. And like I mentioned, we're seeing that Battle VIP card, which I think is a really good choice for this one. Filling up your bench space, chucking in those Rotoms, chucking in any of your Radiant Zards for the later game, or more importantly, the Pidgeys, the Charmanders, I absolutely love. Myth Energy, because you want to protect yourself against Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon is doing incredibly well right now in Japan, and also slowing down the likes of the Regidragos. There's also the Dragapulse with spread damage is really strong. The rest of it, it's definitely got a lot going on with this one, with the Briar, with the Fortune, with the Roxanne, with the Boss's Orders, even the Clapseum. There is a ton going on with the Charizard, but I think the creativity is definitely being paid off as it did in fact win. So yes, you have only got two fire energies along with, four fire energies with two super rods. So you've got to be really careful if you don't prize this one, but you can theoretically play this right now, but obviously change out the ace spec. So I think definitely some unique approach to play Charizard. Next one is this Raging Bolt. You might look and go, this seems about normal. We're seeing the Briar, which has kind of been cropping up quite a bit in the Raging Bolts. We're seeing Slivering as the attacking option instead of the likes of the Sandy Shock, so which I don't disagree. I still think it's pretty good, but obviously helps a lot more against the future sort of style decks. But we're seeing the Unfair Stamp instead of Prime Catcher. This, I think, could really help Raging Bolt. Sometimes you could be on the back burner. Sometimes you just need a refresh of hand. So having that Unfair Stamp, I think, really unlocks the deck just brand new potential. Could this be the best way to play Raging Bolt? Clearly, we did see it won. I could see it work very well in some evolving decks against Charizard. This could be much stronger than likes of playing the Prime Catch, which is much better in the mirror match and going through the multiple two prize attacking option. So Unfair Stamp could really slow down these evolving archetypes. Playing 4 copies of Pokemon Catcher plus 1 Boss's Orders, you already have a ton of Gustian effects, so theoretically, I don't really disagree with the Unfair Stamp. And I really like the Lost Vacuum as well to remove any of the stadium cards, as well as also the Bravery Charm to help you get that hit sweet number. Now look at Gardevoir. Now this one here I mentioned before, it did play this new stadium card, which the ace spec, which blows away all of the dual cards, special energies, and stadium cards round, which I really think this is quite strong. Now, I don't think this is the exact perfect play for Gardevoir. It could really help in the mirror match, but also it removes some of the key pieces you might need to have. It does slow down your opponent by actually removing their own Bravery Charms, removing their Pokestop, so you can really slow down their sort of style in that sort of deck. Also helps you, Lugia matchup by removing the legacy energy, which is really, really crucial, and you can actually guarantee a prize card instead of losing one on that turn. So there are really good plays about this one. I do think you could either play the Hyper Roma or the Unfair Stamp unlocks Gardevoir just a little bit better by even finding all your curlies or effectively disrupting your opponent. We're seeing here, we're still playing the Clefty and Flustermane. We are seeing more of the two double copies of Bravery Charm, but still playing that TM Evolution because it's so powerful against the likes of Charizard and Dragon Ball. I like Gardevoir. I still think it's well placed in the metagame, but I'm interested to see how it's really going to go forward with this one. And is this the best ace spec to play? Now let's look at control. And oh boy, this has got a lot on control. And you might go, well, Charlie, this is exactly how we're playing now. But it does have that one copy of counter game. And this unlocks Noivern incredibly well. By having this on your Noivern EX, you can make sure you can attack without using any of your double turbos. You instantly attach a Mist Energy and you can attack them with semi damage and stopping the being damaged by any of your opponent's basic Pokemon. This I absolutely love. I think counter game works incredibly well, especially if you're playing likes of Blood Moon and Luna as another attacking option for this deck. potentially could be attacking for blow most for zero energies much earlier on, which I absolutely love. Whereas this one is still very disruptive. Miss Energy again protects you from the likes of Roaring Moon, which is so smart. So they're not going to get these big one-hit KO by them. Whereas with it, we are seeing most of the commonly same. I think the Hero's Cape is really powerful in handheld fan, but also a complete flu. With 15 likes of Trapagos have one of these big, massive bench size, potentially they might want to have some of their liabilities out and play much earlier on, which can be stuck in there with likes of Snorlax. Complete flu is a really good sort of tag against them. I think Control is in a very good spot. We've seen the likes of Iron Force really well, and now we're seeing this sort of version of Control, especially on the Noivern, as we are seeing a lot more of the Raging Bugs around this one. It's going to be very difficult for them to deal with. And now, I mentioned before Golden Go, this is an interesting winning list because not only are you playing your Golden Go, but you're also playing the Light Part. There is a ton of draw in this deck. So this is also a really good secondary attacking option as a lot of decks play abilities. Think about how many decks play the likes of Ogerpon, or now we've got the Noctowls around, the Fan Rotons, despite also their Dustclops around them. So you have a ton of abilities out in play, so this single prize attacker is incredibly strong. I do love the light pod as an additional way to get some entry to the discard pile. You can recover them quite easily with superior energy retrieval and regular energy retrieval, but also you can draw through a ton of cards. You can see nearly all your deck much earlier on, which I absolutely love. I think the stadium cards are really powerful to either protect itself or potentially reduce any damage from the opponent's side. From Daisy's Help, it's not a bad sort of card. They obviously, the Cypher made its code breaking, as we've seen a lot of cards, either it be Golden Go or like some Light Bar. You can instantly see and draw into exactly which ones you might want to see. I think Golden Go is in a good space right now. Obviously, we've seen it do really well in the likes of Dortmund. I'm interested to see how it's going to translate over. We saw 3 Golden Go win this week, so and it got 2.8% at the Champions League, City League, sorry. Could we see Golden Go actually rise to a lot better fame? And obviously, we can't be a video without talking about creativity without looking at Shen Pao. And this one here is looking quite normal what we're seeing there. But the more you look into it, the more you see some interesting text. We aren't playing any of the Iron Hand, but we are playing a grassland to utilize Palkia. Palkia has a really good attack, 40 times amount of basic energies attached to this one. You can attack a ton of energies on this one, and instantly have this as a big secondary attacking option. Granted, I think the likes of Iron Hands is much stronger. It's we're seeing the likes of Charizard do a much better sort of emplacement, but also like the Dragon Ball and Gardevoir, and taking 2 prize cards easily is a much stronger choice. But having a Palkia could be really difficult. It's a single prize attacking option, which could do a ton of damage. Granted, you are sacrificing nearly every single bit of energy, and it's very difficult to retrieve them unless you're playing your superior energy retrieval or one of your super rods, so it's very difficult for you to actually gain anything back. What I like is playing the Lumineon. You have access to Forest Hill Stone, so you can get any one card you really need to have. And lots of encouragement as well. It's really good to get any more additional energy cards when one of your opponent is knocked out. I really like Shen Pao. I think his creativity definitely got rewarded by its winning, but overall, I may disagree with the choices. I saw another one which played the likes of Palkia. There was also Iron Hands, plus also the Kyogre. So there was a ton of stuff going on in this Shen Pao. So people are still experimenting with this one. I still love this one. I think if you are an absolutely huge Shen Pao head, like most of the people are on my channel, you could definitely still play this one to a very good success. This one here is definitely something to be excited about. I'm intrigued to see what Palkia really does bring to the archetype, what the likes of Iron Hands doesn't. But overall, I think this is a very interesting take. And now I want to finish up by looking at Serena. And this has had quite a lot of hype around it. I've seen lots of people play it in our format right now. And I think it could actually be a really good contender. By having Serena EX, obviously you can reduce your opponent's HP until it has 30 remaining. And then you have Bravery to spread around some damage count, which I really like. Also play the Villains, which is a really interesting ability, which makes sure it's not sort of damaged by anything with a lower HP. Plus also Gravity Gemstone to stuck me in the access well. TM Evolution to evolve yourself much earlier on. Also play that Lysa, which is a really interesting gusting effect. Obviously it's basically boss's orders, but the opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. So it's a really interesting approach. So if they actually attack, they also knock themselves out, which is a really cool, interesting thing if they fail on the heads flip. I really like this deck. I think it's going to be much stronger when we get the rest of the Sparking Surges with the Stadium card, which reduces the Stage 2 Pokemon by 30 HP, so instantly pretty much one-hit KOing like some Charizard afterwards, which I think I will pitch up, which I think is quite interesting. But I think overall spread sort of decks are going to come back. We're seeing Dusknoir doing really well. This Serena deck might actually have a really good combination with the likes of Dusknoir in the future. So, just looking ahead, it's a threat of Briar worse than actually playing him. We've seen it do pop up time and time again in the Raging Bolt decks, in the Dragapults, in the Charizards, but when we watch on streams or even talk about people, they aren't playing their Briars. So, it's a threat generally holding most people from going into that scary two price one and forcing the Charizard to actually find all the common pieces they need. Is Dragapult overplayed? We're talking about this a ton of saying that Dragapult isn't a really good deck, but did in fact obviously win Dortmund regionals, but it's not doing really well in the Champions. In Champions League, we've got top eight. In the City Leagues, we've seen it's always the fourth or third or sometimes even fifth most played and most placed archetype. But last few weeks, it has not won more than one sort of Champions League. So City League. So it is actually a threat for Dragon Ball. And is Iron Thorns here to stay? It's doing incredibly well in the format. If Lugia is going to always be that 7 or 8%er, doing really, really well, constantly converting into the top six archetypes for City League. Iron Thorns, I think, is definitely here to stay. Slowing down Max Charizard and finishing Lugi's on their spot. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please remember to like and subscribe. Comment down below, what do you think is the best creative choices that Japan has really been making this past weekend? Sorry it's a little bit of a shorter video. I'm going to be back in a few days' time talking about Palkia and what is the best way to play this, Dusknoir or Terapagos. Hope you guys have a brilliant week and I'll see you guys later. Bye for now.